Welcome to Equal Entertainment. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. Academy Award-winning and Grammy Award-winning artist Jamie Foxx is breaking his silence after a health scare that left him hospitalized for days. On social media, Foxx thanked followers, quote, for all of the love. It's our first time hearing directly from Foxx since his daughter Corinne released a statement saying Foxx was hospitalized due to a medical complication. Foxx had been in Atlanta filming the Netflix movie Back in Action. As he recovers, Nick Cannon will fill in as guest host on Beat Shazam. Foxx hosts the game show with his daughter Corinne. We wish him a full recovery. It's May 4th, and you know what that means. May the 4th be with you. And on this Star Wars holiday, one iconic star is getting her star on the Walk of Fame, finally. Carrie Fisher was posthumously given a star on the famous sidewalk. Her diverse career included an Emmy nomination, but she will be remembered for her portrayal of Princess Leia Organa in the Star Wars franchise. Fisher died in 2016 at 60 years old. She will join her co-stars Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford on the Walk of Fame. May is Asian American and Pacific Islanders Heritage Month. The acclaimed series Awkwafina is Nora from Queens is hailed for its quick humor, relatability, and AAPI representation, and it's back for a third season. And we're transported back to Queens, where Nora maneuvers young adulthood with her friends and family. I spoke with Awkwafina and co-star BD Bong about the post-pandemic reality in the season and how BD blazed a trail for Asian queer actors.
Where we find Nora in season 3, and I love the description that you just said, because I think that's exactly what I think we wanted to go for, a post-pandemic reality where, you know, you're kind of out of the weeds, so to speak, but there's a lot of other stuff that's kind of left and has affected a lot of families and Americans. Where we find Nora is, I think she's one step out of this kind of like, I don't want to say vapid, maybe trivial pursuit of like millennial things of you know, kind of first shield identities, a good job, you know, a nice car, things like that. And she's now entering this territory of kind of the other things that what are the things that are going to actually make me feel like a good person? That is making sure my family's okay, and that is making sure that I'm making good decisions. I would say that it's probably the most responsible pursuit of stuff, of alignment, that Nora is probably in search of. But yeah, I think and I think also it definitely does reflect kind of like the everyday struggles of people who don't have a lot of money in post-pandemic times and are doing their thing.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. And BD, would you talk a little bit about Wally and how he's in kind of a little bit of a new place this season?
Well, and it's partly the same thing, anxiety about what your future is and what how to make a living and these things. You know, he hits an uncharacteristic low in his kind of everyday life. He's, you know, when it comes to his work life, his career, that all kind of the rug gets pulled out from under him, and he kind of finds himself in a position where he's in a real low. And what's really a gift for the actor is the ability to play real low lows in a character's life, and then have them go somewhere to the high highs that they end up in. And so that by the end of the season, in the last 2 episodes, he's really found his bliss, I think. And I think that's really satisfying if you're rooting for him. That it would go so. I mean, he really is pretty amazingly low in the beginning of the season, and so for that to be able to go that far is really neat. Really neat. The motor of him struggling with his relationship with his daughter and how to move on with his life as a widower is very touching to me, and very real, and is I believe there's a grain of truth to that in real life. And I have always admired and loved that about him in the show. And so in season 3, he really kind of addresses that and kind of takes that to another place for himself, which if you're rooting for him, you'll really be satisfied by that.
Yeah, I mean, who couldn't root for Wally, really?
Well, that's nice. I hope so. I can't tell, but that's nice. Yeah, I hope so.
No. He's lovely, and you know, this is a little bit of a hard pivot, but I have to talk about the Iceland episode, and I mean, hilarious, and but one thing about it that I'm with the advocate, so I want to be sure to ask, like, Nora from Queens has been a queer series from the beginning, but now Nora, is leaning into whatever identity this is, with an elf, and but I think it's really incredible because it's not a meal made out of it. It's just who Nora is, and Edmund is who he is. And Awkwafina, would you talk a little bit about what that means to you to be able to play this character who is leaning into some kind of fluidity, and it's just who they are? Because while it's not a big deal in the show, it is a big deal in the world. And
sure.
yeah,
No, I think that the fluidity part about it is something that I really always wanted it to have, and especially when casting certain roles. For instance, the decision to cast Bowen as Edmund, that role originally was really written for a very heterosexual kind of finance bro.
Yeah.
And the way that Bowen played it, it was such a cool take on what I considered a very tropey character. And the decision to cast Leah, that the elf, it could have been a variety of people, and I love Leah's work. I think that she's hilarious. I think that seeing her as an elf it just was something that I wanted to see. So like when it comes to things like that, I just want who I want up there that is going to be funny and the best person for that role. And I really do like that you don't really know, Nora's just down, you know what I mean? So that's just like, yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that it's like, and it's very similar to the way that we're like not overselling Asian American.
Right.
Just these characters are who they are, and what they are, what they do. They make the choices that make if they're on a path, whatever that is. But it's not. There's no kind of statement to be made about it. It just is they're just facts or details.
Mm-hmm. And well, BD, I wonder if you would talk a little bit about that. You've been at the intersections of queer Asian visibility for many decades, and back in the day, the stories weren't just plain funny, or they were usually very dramatic, and now these people get to have lives, and these stories are just told. And what does it mean to you to be able to see that and to watch these actors playing these characters?
Yeah, there's a real hard parallel in my personal life between my feelings of identity as an Asian American person and as a queer person, in that the marginalization and the way that representation plays a role in my own self-esteem as a performer and all of that are really very identical. They're very, very hard to kind of separate from one another. And I've always felt the same about both of these aspects of myself when it comes to my career and the roles that I'm playing. At some point in the history of the media, Asian American people and queer people have been relegated to playing dramatic functions that exploited that part of their identity and were the main justification for the presence of that character. And as we have gone along, we have become people more. Yeah. A little more, not always, but often more. And that has been really amazing for me to participate in and experience and observe. And this show is a perfect example of where it is in the moment of time in the history of media, that it is not trading off on queerness or on Asian Americanness, and that it is allowing other aspects of a person's personality to work in concert with that queerness or Asian Americanness to make the person more of a three-dimensional person. And that is the key to true representation. And I don't know what else to say about it. It's a fascinating thing to analyze and discuss because people do not think about it. They don't know what they're looking at when they're not a part of these communities. And so for us to be able to discuss it, thank you very much for the discussion, and for us to be able to do it and just let it be what it is, are really important in much more than people think they are.
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you so much for your like really thoughtful and like good questions. I feel like that is, I mean, you have such a good interview style. It's very nice.
Thank you so much to Awkwafina and BD for speaking with me. They're so thoughtful with their work, and we have much to learn from them. Awkwafina is Nora from Queens is airing now on Comedy Central. You can visit us on the Advocate Channel YouTube page for more full interviews. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and that's what's happening in entertainment.